You know, we all naturally avoid difficulty. It's just how we're wired, right? But what if I told you that the real secret to making progress, to actually getting better, is to intentionally seek out a little bit of difficulty every single day? Let's get into how that actually works.
We tend to think of comfort as this amazing reward, this safe space we should always be aiming for. But what if it's not a safe space at all? What if your comfort zone has actually become a trap that's holding you back from what you could be?
So, here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll look at the comfort zone trap itself. Then, we'll unpack a really cool mental model called the 3 zones of progress. After that, we'll talk about the long-term payoff, because you got to know why you're doing this. Then we'll get into the practicals of how to grow safely, and we'll wrap up with a simple challenge you can start today.
Okay, let's dive right into part 1, the comfort zone trap. We're going to see why just staying comfortable can, believe it or not, actually cause you to go backward.
So, what does this zone actually look like in our day-to-day lives? Well, it's pretty familiar stuff. It's doing just enough to get by at your job or in school. It's that endless scroll on your phone for those quick, easy dopamine fixes. It's always hanging out with the same people, holding on to old beliefs without ever really questioning them, and, just always taking the path of least resistance. Does any of that sound familiar? And here's the crazy part, the real paradox that the source material points out. When you're always doing the same easy things, your comfort zone doesn't just stay the same size, it actually starts to shrink. You're not just standing still, you are actively regressing.
This analogy just hits the nail on the head. Think about it. If you stop using a muscle, it atrophies, it gets weaker. Well, it's the exact same principle for your mind. An unchallenged mind becomes less and less capable of dealing with the real challenges that life is going to throw at you, guaranteed.
So that's the big question, right? How do we challenge ourselves the right way? And that brings us perfectly into section 2, the 3 zones of progress. This is such a simple but powerful way to think about your own growth.
So zone number 1 is, of course, the comfort zone. We've been talking about this one. It's that cozy state of ease and predictability. Yeah, it feels safe. But now we know the hidden cost, stagnation, and over time, your capabilities actually shrinking. Next up is the growth zone. Now, this is where the magic happens. This is an area of what you might call productive struggle or productive discomfort. Think about trying to lift just a little bit more weight than last time, or stumbling through a conversation in a language you're trying to learn. It's awkward, it's hard, but this is where all the real progress happens.
But then there's a 3rd zone, and you've got to be careful with this one, the danger zone. This is what happens when you take on way too much challenge at once. You push so hard you get injured, or you take on a project so big you completely burn out. And the worst part, it reinforces that little voice in your head that says, see, change is impossible. This is exactly why our brains are scared of discomfort. They're trying to protect us from this zone. So you might be thinking, okay, with a danger zone out there, why would I ever leave my comfy spot? Well, that brings us to the payoff. In this section, we'll cover 3 huge reasons why you need to embrace that calculated discomfort.
The source material really boils it down for us. There are 3 powerful reasons to intentionally step into that growth zone.
Number 1, to stop that backward slide of stagnation and regression we talked about. Number 2, to get those massive long-term gains that only come from a little bit of short-term pain. And number 3, to kickstart a positive feedback loop of success that just builds and builds on itself.
I love how this table lays it out. It's called the principle of exchange, and it's so simple, but so true. Just look at the pattern here. The short-term pain of studying, where maybe you feel kind of dumb for a bit, that leads to the long-term gain of actually becoming smarter. Resisting that donut is hard right now, but it leads to better health down the road. Saving money feels difficult in the moment, but it's literally the only way to build wealth.
Okay, so the why is crystal clear, but what about the how? How do you actually do this safely without burning out or giving up? Let's move on to our next section, how to grow safely.
So how do you turn up the heat just enough to grow, but not so much that you get burned? Well, you've basically got 3 main dials you can turn. First is consistency. Just do the thing more often. So instead of running twice a week, maybe you try for 3. Second is intensity. Do a more powerful version. Add some sprints into that run. And third is duration. Just do it for a little bit longer. Turn that 20-minute run into a 25-minute one.
Now, this right here is where so many of us go wrong. We try the all-at-once approach.
The source material talks about a friend who did this, vowed to hit the gym 5 times a week, start a new strict diet all at once. And you know what happened? He burned out in less than a month. The smarter way, the way that actually works, is the gradual increment strategy. It's manageable, it's sustainable, and it builds the confidence and momentum you need to actually stick with it.
And this is what that sustainable cycle actually looks like, step by step. You push yourself into the growth zone. You start to feel a little bit overwhelmed. That's your signal. You pull back just a little, you adapt, you recover, and now you have a new, bigger comfort zone. And from there, you repeat the push. It's like a dance. Push, adapt, push, adapt. Really, it all boils down to this one big mindset shift. Stop thinking of your comfort zone as a permanent home. Instead, think of it like a base camp. It's a place of temporary refuge where you rest and recover before you head out for your next push. All right, let's make this real. Time for our final section, your challenge for today. How can you take this whole idea and apply it, like right now? Look, this does not have to be some massive, life-altering leap. The source material says to start small. We're talking tiny pushes. Tonight, just read one more chapter of that book you're on. Next time you're at the gym, just do a few extra reps. Spend 5 minutes, just 5, learning a couple of new words in another language. Or hey, in your next conversation, just push yourself to say one more sentence than you normally would. That's it. I want to leave you with this really powerful thought from the source material. If you never push yourself to the limit, how can you know where your limit is? Think about that. So much of your potential is just sitting there, waiting, right on the other side of what feels comfortable today. Which brings us to the final question. Forget about tomorrow. Forget about next week. This is what it all comes down to. What's one small, difficult thing you are going to do today?